What do you think of when you think of immigration? Some people might think of borders, some might think of refugees, and some might think of the opportunities a new country will give them or the risks they will be taking when entering that new country. However, when you look at America, the views are so different. When we look back at America, we see that this nation started because of immigration. Over the years, our nation has grown and we have become a place that people feel safe to go when seeking a better life. Now, that could all change.
Although it was already occupied by native peoples when being discovered, many varieties of people have made this country their own after immigrating. After a few failed settling attempts, many Europeans came to America to form colonies, including Germans, Spanish, French, Dutch, and Scandinavians, although the British held control of the colonies settled. In the 1620s, one of the more famous settlements was formed, in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The colonies continued to grow via immigration until America decided to revolt against England. After its revolution from England, America became a place to go for a new start and a new life. Between 1836 and 1914, over 30 million Europeans immigrated to the United States. In fact, immigration is so important to this nation as it grew that it changed the meaning of one of the national monuments. In 1892, Ellis Island, an immigrant processing station, was opened in New York near the Statue of Liberty, which had previously been a monument to the abolition of slavery. After opening the station and the publishing of the poem The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus, the statue is now thought of as a symbol of hope for immigrants and America as a place of refuge. The poem was eventually etched into bronze and placed at the foot of the statue. As we remember that immigrants have founded and greatly shaped our country and its monuments, we must consider, what are the various opinions on immigration today, and how and when did they start to change?
Immigration is something that has occurred in this country since its beginning. Immigrants flooded into the Americas with hopes and dreams for a new life. In the late 1800s, though, Congress began to implement laws that restricted the amount of people from each country that could enter the United States, as well as exclude certain countries from allowing their people to enter at all. After World War I ended in 1914, many Americans' views on immigration shifted. Suspicions of foreigners were on the rise. People's loyalties were called into question. By the 1960s, calls for immigration reform grew louder and louder, which led President Lyndon B. Johnson to sign the Hart-Celler Act into law. In the 1980s and 90s, the topic of illegal immigrants began to be a big political debate. When the recession hit in the 90s, the anti-immigrant feeling returned. Patterns can be seen that as long as our country is doing well, immigrants are welcomed, but as soon as we start to slip, the blame is immediately placed on immigrants.
Since we have learned why opinions might have changed, we must consider what those opinions are today. Those that are anti-immigration might be in favor of limiting immigration and support the practices of things like the separation of families at the border or building the wall to keep out immigrants. On the other hand, those that are pro-immigration believe that the current level of immigration is fine and believe that we should share our resources and provide safety to those fleeing danger. They may also believe that we should adjust the process of immigration and better help immigrants in their adjustment process.
With the topic of immigration comes two sides. We wanted to make sure that we talked about both sides and how people feel about immigration. For this interview, the person is against illegal immigration. During the interview, the discussion of legal immigration versus illegal immigration was brought up. He made it clear that although he is not necessarily a fan of immigration, he is not against it if it is done legally. The problem he has with immigration is that so many people come into the country illegally. When I asked him why he is against illegal immigration, he talked about the impact that illegal immigrants have on both the space and job availability within the United States. He would rather resources be used more effectively to tighten up border control than attempting to build a wall that he does agree won't work. What grounds do people have to be against immigration? An article titled Yes, Immigration Hurts America in the Politico magazine explains people's viewpoint a little bit more. This article recognizes that there are two sides to every situation. George J. Borjas is a professor at Harvard Kennedy School. His paper on economics has been widely used by political parties. Donald Trump used the economic paper and said, and I quote, "Decades of record immigration have produced lower wages and higher unemployment for our citizens, especially for African American and Latino workers. This quote does hold some truth, but as the article mentions, it is only half the story and there are other factors to take into consideration. People have a right to their opinions and beliefs. The article highlights that and brings to light some of the issues people see within immigration, especially illegal immigration. As the article says, when the supply of workers goes up, the price that firms have to pay to hire workers goes down. So where do we find a perfect balance of both sides and how do we find it? This is a question that continues to go unanswered.
Now that we understand more about the anti-immigration side, we must consider those that are pro-immigration. In order to further understand this immigration debate, we spoke to an immigrant and the child of an immigrant. When we asked our immigrant why people might choose to come to the United States, they said, "It's what anyone wants, a better future, a job and security, and a lot of immigrants are not able to get that back home." Everyone has a different story, and we have to be willing to listen because they just want to protect their families and to progress. They also mentioned they would agree with making the immigration process easier if a person shows that they are a good citizen and are only here to better themselves. This person also commented that there should be laws that benefit the people who are good citizens, laws that are fair to them, and to recognize their work and contribution to this country when discussing whether immigration should be expanded. When we spoke to the daughter of an immigrant, Christy Garcia, we heard a slightly different story. Christy mentioned that she understood why some people are skeptical of immigrants, as there is much propaganda out there against them. She reminds us that the bad people who abuse immigration should not affect our attitudes towards the good people. Christy also believes that there might be some merit to limiting immigration so that we can ensure that better people are coming into the country. She also cautioned that the limiting of immigration would have its downfalls, such as a lack of people to do the jobs that American citizens might not want to do, like migrant farming.
So everyone mentions crime when immigration gets brought up. Oftentimes, people are under the misconception that immigration increases crime. According to the article, the criminalization of immigration in the United States, between 1990 and 2013, the foreign-born share of the U.S. population grew from 7.9% to 13.1%, and the number of unauthorized immigrants more than tripled from 3.5 million to 11.2 million. During the same period, FBI data indicates that the violent crime rate declined 48%, which included falling rates of aggravated assault, robbery, rape, and murder. Likewise, the property crime rate fell 41%, including declining rates of motor vehicle theft, larceny, robbery, and burglary. That means, contrary to what many people who are against immigration believe, the prevalence of immigration, legal or illegal, is associated with a lower amount of crime in the country of entry. The false beliefs that people have led to prejudice laws relating to immigrants, including deportation as a punishment for minor offenses that natives would not even see jail time for. As time continues on, these laws become stricter and more harsh, but is that really who we want to be as a country?
As of recently, there has been a rise in immigration. Some people do not agree with the practices being implemented, such as the increase in forcible separation of families. Since 2014, there has been an increase in the number of families emigrating from Central America who are seeking asylum in the United States. As the number of family apprehensions has increased, so has the practice of forcibly separating children from their parents. Literature suggests that children separated from their caregivers can experience negative effects to their well-being and development. Future research must critically document the damaging impact of family separation and help establish evidence-based alternatives to this practice so that it does not reemerge in the future. Those against immigration have gone too far in putting the lives of
There are two sides to every story, and in order to get a complete understanding, one must know and understand both sides. The topic of immigration is no different. Many people don't know the full story, which is why the debate is so vast. It's really much simpler than it's made out to be. Many immigrants come to the United States for safety, jobs, and family. This is where one issue arises. People believe their jobs are being taken when this isn't the case. Many people are not against immigration if done so legally. Many more immigrants come to this country legally than illegally. Becoming a citizen of the United States is difficult, and often some items fall through the cracks, and a once legal immigrant now becomes illegal. In the end, it's up to us as a country to find a balance, to better support all people, including those that come to this country